Nick did bring notes.
Yeah.
Nick is going to lead us through a discussion of the World Series and who's going to win. And I may chime in at some points, but he's really prepared. So here's his dissertation.
All right. If you look at the series, this is as even a series as we've had since probably Angels-Giants. And it's probably going to be the first series as good as that one. And now we're looking at, because we've been looking at about 6 years now of a series done in 4 or 5 games. If you look at the rotations, New York's going through 3-man rotation again of Sabathia, Burnett, Pettit, Sabathia, Burnett, Pettit, and then Sabathia for 7. If you look at Philadelphia, they're going to have Cliff Lee and Pedro Martinez in game 1 and 2. They're going to have Cole Hamels in game 3. And then they're either going to bring back Lee on 3 days rest for game 4 and have Blanton pitch 5 and Martinez come back for 6, and then Lee in game 7. Or if they want to give Hamels 2 starts because they're a little iffy on him.
As well they should be.
Right. They'll have Blanton pitch game 4. It'll be more of a traditional postseason rotation. Lee comes back in game 5. Pedro pitches game 6 regardless. And now Hamels goes in game 7. And I sort of broke it down as to who I think it would win, but to basically show you, I basically think it's going 7, and it's going to be in New York. CC Sabathia against either Cole Hamels or Cliff Lee. That's incredible. That's Smoltz-Morris-esque for game 7, or Clemens and Kurt Schilling. It's, despite the fact that Red Sox fans and the sight of are just vomiting at the sight of the Yankees in another World Series, this is going to. I'll be very disappointed if it doesn't go 7 and these games aren't just tight right to the end. If there's even one blowout in the series, the only chance I think is whatever game Joe Blanton pitches, but he has the potential to shut someone down too. He's not a bad pitcher.
I look at AJ Burnett and you've got him pitching against Pedro in game 2. That just doesn't even seem fair.
And then in game 5 against Cliff Lee, or game 5 against Joe Blanton or Cole Hamels, depending how they want to do it, because Manuel has some options. And then we might get 2 instances of Sabathia Lee, or we're going to get Sabathia Lee and then Sabathia Hamels, last year's World Series MVP, who's been battling injuries, but when he's on, there are very few pitchers as good as him. This is going to be very, very good.
And when you talk about the bullpens, for as much as Brad Lidge has gotten, taking it on the chin this year, Joe Girardi's taken it as much on the chin for his overmanaging of his bullpen and his seeming inability to just let things play out.
If you're a Yankee fan, if you see Jabba Chamberlain enter any game in the series, you better be throwing the remote at the TV. They just need to just admit that this season is kind of over for him. He's still their ace in the hole in the future, but right now, I mean, he's just not the right guy. He's not the even now putting him back in the bullpen. He's not the 8th inning guy he was 2 years ago in the playoffs, and down the stretch. But otherwise, Phil Koch's been solid. Hughes has been okay. He's been a little shaky, but otherwise, I think you still have to be confident in Phil Hughes. Rivera is just the man. I mean, we haven't seen a reliever like this, certainly not in our lifetime.
Oh no.
And you have to go back to Hoyt Wilhelm. I mean, who else has been this good for this long? And you look at Philadelphia. Lidge has figured it out. Ryan Matson's still good. They're a very good team.
It's as though that the best teams are playing in the World Series.
Who would have thought that the National League would have actually produced a serious contender? Sarcasm. I think the National League is better than people think.
Oh, of course it's better than people think. But let's buzz through these lineups pretty quickly before we make our bold series predictions.
Yes. If you look at first base, I went by position, not by lineup or leadoff.
The way that all baseball games are determined, of course. It's a fantasy league, correct?
Exactly.
Yes.
You look at first base, Mark Teixeira for New York, Ryan Howard versus Philadelphia. That is as even as it comes.
Pretty much.
Teixeira has the edge in defense. Howard has the edge in just he terrified.
You know what? No, I'm not going to call it even. I'm going to give that edge to New York. Yeah? I think Teixeira has been one of the most complete players in the league this year.
Absolutely.
And you've seen it in the playoffs, and it's gotten a lot more, even though it got plenty of press during the year because he plays in New York, his defense is spectacular.
You saw that play where he wound up covering second base, right?
I believe there was a point during the Angels series where Teixeira made a play, and in my head I instantly thought of Theo Epstein saving a chair that he had not smashed the night he didn't get Jose Contreras and just throwing it against the wall as hard as he could.
Yeah.
He would look, as one of our coworkers is fond of saying, he would look pretty good in a Red Sox uniform.
Yes, he would. That said, I don't think there's anyone more terrifying than Ryan Howard.
Well, yeah, if you're a Subway sandwich, yes.
Or a fastball. But anyway, so we disagree there. But second base, New York, Robinson Cano. Philadelphia, Chase Utley. This is a home run for Philadelphia.
Yeah. Right? If Utley can stop throwing the ball in the dugout, yes.
Okay. Another home run the other way, though. New York has Alex Rodriguez. Philadelphia has Pedro Feliz.
No discussion needed. Next.
Moving on. This is the most interesting matchup, I think. Shortstop, New York, Derek Jeter. Philadelphia, Jimmy Rollins. Or, as he's known, the Derek Jeter of the Phillies.
J-Roll.
You think so? I think slightly goes... Yeah, this is almost as even as it comes, too, because Jeter learned to play shortstop this year, finally.
Jeter has had one of the better late career years that we've seen in a while. Yeah, and it's so easy to overpraise him, but his defense has been much better this year. His offense has been as good as we've seen from him in 3 or 4 years. You know, just talking off the top of my head, I don't have numbers in front of me.
I initially gave this to Rollins, and then I crossed it out and wrote New York, and now I'm just calling it even because I think this is as even as it can.
I'll slight edge to the Yankees there.
All right. In their outfield, right to left, the Yankees have Nick Swisher, Miguel Cabrera.
Who's kind of awful.
And Johnny Damon.
Who's awful.
You think so?
Defensive. I'm talking defensively. I'm just have images in my head of them falling over and running into the wall.
And Johnny Damon's butter arm.
Stooge-like plays all over the place.
Philadelphia, right to left.
Benny Hill music playing in the background.
Philadelphia has from right to left Jason Worth, Shane Victorino, and Raul Ibanez. They are so advanced at every position there.
Yeah,
that's theirs. And they had their entire outfield sent to the All-Star
offensively
game.
And defensively.
Yes. I mean, wouldn't Shane Victorino look good in Red Sox uniform?
He's Hawaiian.
He is.
If we could get a theme music to play behind this, I would want it to be the Hawaii 5-0 theme. Which, if you're on the YouTube, just throw Hawaii 5-0 right into the YouTube and thank me later.
At catcher, we have for New York, we have the Posada Jose Molina combination because Molina's going to catch Burnett twice if this goes 7, like I think it will. And for Philadelphia, you have Carlos Ruiz, and I think that's about even considering that we're going to have 2 games of Molina. And how fantastic Ruiz has been behind the plate all year.
I will say that Molina, I believe, has the best stolen base numbers of anybody in baseball, or at least he did at one point. So he's a little better than you. He's not that great by all means, but he's got things that he can do that can mess up the Philly offense because I do think that they lean a little bit more on speed than New York does.
Well, yeah, between Victorino and Worth and Rollins, I mean, they have some fast guys. Ryan Howard somehow stole 8 bases this year. I don't know how that happened.
That might be... It's still more surprising to me that Dustin Pedroia has stolen 20 bases 2 years in a row. Because he has a very small stride because he's 2'6".
Yes. He lives in Kevin Youkilis's pocket.
He does.
He feeds him M&Ms.
Who's Philly using as a DH in the series?
New York's using Hideki Matsui. Philadelphia will be using Ben Francisco against the lefties, Sabathia and Pettit, and Matt Stairs against Burnett.
The ageless
for now.
Matt Stairs.
I'm going to make a bold prediction. Matt Stairs is going to hit a home run off of A.J. Burnett in Game 2.
That may never land.
It's going to happen. That's my prediction. And just because this might not make it online until after the game, on Tuesday at whatever time it is right now, there it is.
6:29.
All right.